post. This is the only thing that I want to see. There's something that this man, this feels so bad for this guy. The first thing I see right here on the side is scrub quotes. We'll go ahead and read. Let's read the post first. There are frequently times where someone is clearly done with their string of attacks and you try to mash out anything in the frame. Your character is still standing and not floored. Almost everything the other person does, including the same generic string of R-word punches, will clobber all of your attempts at inputting an attack. It can be anything from light, kick. It just will never come out. The only thing you can do is GIRE or try to block. You will never succeed in trying to press an attack button in this scenario. I've tried it all. For other games in these crappy situations, you can sneak out a dragon punch plus universal reversal. But the single fastest move I've seen come close is Talim's forward donkey kick, and that has pitiful range, but the startup is so fast it can technically win out in mashing as a reversal. Are there any other moves like this that also that also track? Okay, so the question is essentially he's asking, I just want to know what the fuck is wrong with hit stun in Soulcalibur 6 and if any true reversals actually exist. Someone said scrub quote. So before I read any of the comments, I just want to, I saw this and I don't have a Reddit account. I just look at Reddit every now and then. I do not have a Reddit. I don't want a Reddit. I look at Reddit fight sticks, and whenever someone tags me something funny on Reddit like this, and I say funny because this guy doesn't play 3D fighters, clearly. So instead of like berating him, calling him a scrub, an idiot, a loser, learn how to play the game instead of doing all that stuff like other people are probably doing, like the guy who called him scrub quotes, I'm going to answer the question. No, there are no DP. There are no invincible reversals. But invincible reversals in Street Fighter 5 without meter, 3 frame, invulnerable. Their invulnerability starts at frame 3. A GI startup is frame 2. So if you're worried about someone mashing buttons at you, try GI. Especially if you need to be out there fast. GI's guard impacts, the parry, starts at frame 2. You do not have to immediately initiate the mind game, the mini game of guard impact afterwards. You can just walk away. You can reposition yourself out of a corner by sidestepping. You can backstep to create some space because they're pressing too many buttons at you and you don't know what to do. Give them maybe some room to whiff a button so you can whiff punish their button. Or you could block. There is no penalty in Soulcalibur specifically. There's very fringe cases. Most of the time you will not take chip damage for blocking. Unless your opponent is in Soul Charge or they're using Aki with Mekimaru or whatever. They're using the meter burn moves with Geralt, right? I think some of those do chip damage. Most of the time you will not take chip damage for blocking. And the vast majority of attacks that are plus or neutral in the game are mid or high. They're not low. Most lows are not plus on block. It is very rare you'll find a low that is plus on block. Most of the time, if you block a low, your turn. So as long as you're pressing a fast enough button, lows, you can counter poke out of most situations. A lot of situations you can counter poke out with something like a 2A or a 2B or an AA, right? You just need to find your fastest options to beat your opponent mashing at you. This is option dependency. This is a classic example of option dependency. And what he is looking for here is confirmation bias that there's a problem with Soulcalibur 6 or maybe 3D fighting in general because there's so much hit stun and block stun and the moves are different they form differently. 2D fighters, right? In 2D fighters, you press a jab on someone, you're like usually neutral, you need to cancel into something maybe you're +2, you can cancel into something and get some sort of a follow-up, right? Or keep yourself safe by canceling to a Hadouken, projectile, some kind of fireball, right? Or if you want to confirm damage, you confirm into a launching special move, then juggle with another button into an ender, right? Soulcalibur doesn't have any of that, and neither does Tekken really, except for the 2D character. So your reversal options are ducking, stepping, blocking, and whatever parries that the game happens to have. In a game like Tekken, we have things like low parry and power crush. Power crush is a phenomenal option, right? Loses to throws, loses to lows, but it beats all mids and highs, and it has armor. You do take damage, but it has armor. Phenomenal option, right? Soulcalibur, I think, if you're asking me as a person who plays the game constantly, all the time, I think that Soulcalibur has too many defensive options. There is GI, there's RI, there is RE, there's stepping, there's crouching, because all those are considered defensive options, because there's big reward to ducking a high and big reward to stepping a vertical. And there's soul charge. There is a lot of defensive things you can do. There's a fuck ton. Where's the rest of his? I think he says something else here. He says something else to this. I think he deleted it. I think he got scrub quoted and he deleted what he said. So I remember here he said something specifically about that's the reason why the game is dead is because you can't match DP, which is just wrong. Soulcalibur is low on players because Soulcalibur has always been a really small game. It has nothing to do with the fact that there's no DPs. As a matter of fact, most 3D fighters do not have DPs, right? The one jab in Tekken is a phenomenal defensive option and offensive option, right? But in Soulcalibur, a more universal way to get out of a lot of pressure whenever people are slightly plus or slightly minus is something like a 2A. 2A is a phenomenal way to get out of pressure. You want to be out, you 2A or you GI or you block. Blocking, other than losing guard gauge, is not a bad option. And the reason why I know that this is a dependency issue, this is definitely option dependency. He's so used to being able to mash reversals, is because he says, are there any other moves like that also track? He's looking for a tracking DP in a 3D fighting game. Brother, we do not have option coverage like that. You are playing the wrong game. Even Akuma's DP in Tekken does not track. You can sidestep Akuma's DP. It is invulnerable on startup if you EX it. It is. It's a true invincible DP, and you can FADC it. That's insane. It's a powerful move. It's extremely insane. Pardon me. But there's risk to it. What you're asking for is a riskless DP. If your opponent steps, they get hit. If your opponent mashes, they get hit. What in the fuck do you expect? Do you expect like a catch-all? You're not going to get that in a game like Soulcalibur. You're not going to get that in most 3D fighting games. 3D fighting games are inherently balanced around the fact that pressure is significantly string-based, right? Usually in games like Tekken, DOA, Soulcalibur, Virtual Fighter, it's mainly string-based offense. Right, so if you're worried about a flurry of R-word punches, find the gap and start GIing it against people who are mashing on those punches, who are letting that full string rock. Find a spot where you can step it or maybe duck it, right? Find out if it's punishable on block and just block the shit and then punish it, right? Add an additional layer of mind game to your opponent's game plan. Crush them so badly with your knowledge of whatever they're doing that it now becomes your turn to be in the driver's seat. They have to worry about, well, if I finish this string, he learned that he can GI here. So I can't finish the whole string, he's just gonna GI me every time. Well, he learned that he can step or block punish this. I can't just finish this whole string because he's gonna step or block punish it. Now they're gonna have to use new options, new tactics, or they're gonna have to start changing the way that their offense is structured. So you move on to the level 2 of the game. Right now you're at the level 1. There's nothing wrong with the hit zone in Soulcalibur 6. Matter of fact, I think there's not enough pressure in Soulcalibur. I think the frame data is really bad on a lot of buttons on hit. I think we need more plus frames. But what you're looking for is a way out. And I'm giving you a way out. And this goes to anyone who's having a lot of problems getting out of pressure in Soulcalibur 6 and people just continue to just throw out strings into strings into strings on you. Lab a little bit. And if you don't want to lab, do it in game. Say, you know what? I think this string looks like a vertical at the end. Let me see if I can step. Maybe your character can, maybe another character can. Hey, this string looks like maybe it has a gap. Let me see if I can GI or soul charge or reverse ledge through the gap. Oh, dude, that looks like a high into a high end. Maybe I can 2A there. Is there enough frames for me to 2A? Or maybe another universal tech crouch of some kind that your character has that's better. Maybe a tech crouching launcher, you know? Look into the options instead of complaining about the game. There's a lot wrong with Soulcalibur 6. Believe me. And A3 Volto's taking me to school, nice. there's a lot wrong with Soulcalibur 6 for sure, but not having an invincible reversal is not one of them. An invincible reversal would probably throw this game on its head. I don't think that we need something like that. What we need is for people to really understand how the offense and defense are structured and how to get out of pressure and how to build a good offense around people who understand how to get out of pressure. It's food for thought. Don't be dependent on certain options, because when you move into a new game, maybe, just maybe, those options won't be there. Let's look at a game like Guilty Gear, for instance. Guilty Gear has very few truly invincible reversals, right? There's Soul that aren't supers, right? There's Soul's DP, there's Chip DP, and there's, who else has a DP? Leo DP. That's it. I think there's only 3 DPs in the game. There might be one other, but everyone else has to use meter for invincibility, or use a burst when they need to get out of pressure, or an RC, or faultless defense, or just guard. But you see how there's a rich amount of defensive options other than just DP, and that's a 2D fighting game. Mortal Kombat's the same way. There's flawless block into up 2, flawless block into up 3. There's wake up buttons, right? Up 2 on wake up, up 3 on wake up, roll on wake up. There's down 1, phenomenal pressure tool, pokes out of highs and then allows you to start your offense. Tekken, there's power crush, there's duck, there's step. Ducking, crouching under highs in Tekken is actually fucking phenomenal, because it actually makes the hitbox completely disappear. The hitbox disappears. You cannot fall back into the high if you duck it. The hitbox is gone. It's gone. It no longer exists. Right? And that's 3D fighting game. DOA has the hold system. It also has reversals. It has reversal supers, right? There are tons of other options other than DP to get out of pressure. You just have to learn that the game you're playing has different ways to get out of pressure. And once you learn that, you can start to play the level 2 of a game. Don't blame an option, don't blame the game. Figure out what your next move is, moving on as a player, or don't play the game. Oh, there's a lot of things I don't like about fighting games, and instead I just don't play the game. But I'm not gonna berate Guilty Gear for the way that it's designed. I don't like a lot of things about Guilty Gear Strive's design, but whatever. It has nothing to do with the game itself. It has more to do with the fact that I don't like them. This is the same way. He doesn't like that there's something wrong with the hit stun. There's not anything wrong with the hit stun. He doesn't like that there's no invincible reversal, and there will never be invincible reversals. I hope they never add invincible reversals to more 3D fighting games. Invincible reversals in fighting games, in 3D fighters, are a mistake. They are a mistake. Anyways, if you learned something, feel free to like the video. Comment down below if you play any 3D fighters and would be absolutely astounded to have absolutely elated to have more reversals, more invincible reversals in your fighting game. Tekken players, I'm talking to you. DOA players, I'm sorry. Soulcalibur players, we have Qualmar and he doesn't even have true invincibility on his reversal. Get fucked. It's Beanie Thuggish, signing out. Peace. Okay, now I'm gonna read these and not put this on YouTube, so that if someone says something really mean to him, I can laugh. Let's see. Yeah, Guardian Pact is true. That's exactly what I said. Guardian Pact is definitely the one. I don't know, as a Smash player, I wish my opponents couldn't just mash attacks to escape my strings. It feels mindless. It feels really mindless and mashy. I get that DP is more technical than an air, but even still, I find it extremely satisfying. You are forced to change. Oh wait, I find it extremely satisfying on the giving and receiving end of the disadvantaged state in all my fighting games when you are forced to change your tactics. Yes, I love this. At any given moment, the joy of competitive gaming is born from the marriage of skill and strategy, adapting to your opponent, pushing the meta, and growing constantly as a player. Force me to block, tech you, Kimmy, any day, baby. Yeah, that's good. That's so true. I love this. Because what he's saying is, hey, change your tactics. Instead of crying and saying we don't have a DP, find out what you're supposed to use. This game heavily punishes people with the blind mentality to just mash buttons, even though I just ate an attack. It's so intentional. If an attack lands, it is most likely going to leave the opponent at plus frames, the attacker at plus frames, and the opponent at minus frames. Keep in mind, you take 0 chip damage from blocking in most situations, so blocking isn't the end of the world. He deleted his post. There used to be something here. but he deleted it because he got scrub quoted. He deleted it. He said y'all's game sucks and this is why the game's dying. Just add a DP or something stupid like that. I think GIs might be fairly close to what you're looking for. It'll beat out really quick follow-up attacks, and you'll get blown up if your opponent sees it coming. This, guard impact. Though in this game, once you guard impact, your opponent can still manage to get away unscathed depending on how you follow it up or what they do. Anyways, it changes the momentum in your favor. Yeah, so this is exactly what I was saying too, is GI specifically aren't like a DP, like you don't get damage and a knockdown or damage and a knockdown into the twerk on your opponent's face. You don't get to do that, right? But it does lead to a really favorable 50-50 for you depending on your character. And it also makes it so that you're in control of the match now. Once you start GIing your opponent a lot on their strings, on their very basic offense and understanding of like their flowchart, then they're forced to change their tempo, right? They're forced to either use less of the strings that they've been using, or they're also forced to start using break attacks, which are usually really fucking slow. And then if you have a read on them stopping the GIs and start just throwing out I-28, I-30, I-50 break attacks or whatever, you can just kind of poke out. Right? It makes it so that GI is such a phenomenal tool for just slowing down the game. I think that GIs kind of serve the same purpose as reversals. This is probably going on YouTube too. Shit, this might be like a separate little rabbit hole discussion. I think GIs and reversal edge, though I hate that there's two. I don't like that reversal edge is like a mind game on its own, right? Of how long is my opponent going to hold it? Do they have a cancel? Is this string going to be already safe? To which side, left or right? And then after that, after the mind game has happened, if it's not and you get hit after using your string or button, then now it's the rock paper scissors. That part I don't like. Just remove the rock paper scissors and it's a fine mechanic. You get a little bit of damage, maybe turn it into a launcher. I don't know. Their armored launchers are kind of busted. Maybe just an armored knockdown. I don't know. With plus frames if you block it, because all the REs are plus, right? So I like the way that they make the game functional. They make the game a lot slower, and they make it so that you have to make sure your offense is calculated. I say it's random sometimes because sometimes it really does feel random. Like it feels like you just hit your opponent 7 times or whatever, and then you said, you know what, he's bound to use a defensive option. I just hit this man 7 fucking times. We're trying to mash on defense. He's got to stop. Guessed wrong 4 of those times. 3 of those times he tried to mash out. I'm gonna backstep here, and then your opponent just uses a giant fucking vertical or horizontal or whatever and catches your backstep because you're only +2, and you're like, hey man, what are you doing, right? But it forces a tempo change on both sides, right? Usually if you're the one using the reversal edges and GIs, soul charges and RIs, and you know you're making the moves on the defensive end, it makes it your opponent has to rethink their offense. Kind of the same way a DP does, right? So if you can't just like mindlessly go in on someone who you know understands that if your pressure's not tight, they will mash a DP on you. You're forced to play differently when you're playing against someone who has a DP unlock, right? Or has any invincible reversal or V reversal or onward move or just whatever, right? You're not looking for a DP, right? To go back to the original thing. You're not looking for a dragon punch or invincible reversal. You are looking for something to slow down the tempo of the game and punish your opponent for being aggressive. GI does that. Reversal edge does that. Both of those things do that. You just have to know how to use them in the situation that you're looking for. Once you find out how to use them properly, right? Because just like you need to learn how to use a DP properly, once you find out how to use those properly, they work serviceable as a replacement for a DP. A DP is no different from a GI or reversal, because if you're right, you can get a whole lot of damage and make your opponent have to slow down on their offense. And if you're wrong, you get blown up. Okay, so I'm glad that the original post that he made here, he made a post here and it's gone. I can't see it. It's gone. He edited it. By that I mean he just completely erased it. He got scrub coded. I don't want to go to Twitter and look for it. But it was pretty salty. It was a really bad take when this guy had something amazing to say to him. I'm gonna read this one more time because I think that this is perfect. This game heavily punishes people with the blind mentality to just mash buttons, even though I just ate an attack. It's so intentional. If an attack string lands, most likely it will leave the attacker at plus frames and the opponent at minus. Yes. Keep in mind that you take 0 chip damage from blocking in most situations. But blocking isn't the end of the world. Most lows aren't giant, fast knockdown lows. Or giant lows are going to start a huge combo. Most lows are just little pokes that are either 0 on hit, slightly plus on hit, minus, even sometimes minus on hit. So if you are standing in place and blocking, you got to tech the throw, hold the mid, duck the high. The low is not that big of a deal in a game like Soulcalibur, and especially even in a game like Tekken, right? There's more hell sweeps in Tekken that are pretty good and unreacted when usually knocked down and lead to a giant combo. We don't really have those in Soulcalibur. So don't think that what you're looking for here is an invincible reversal. It's something to slow down your opponent's off. That's all you need. That is what you're looking for. There's nothing else here, right? Yeah, they didn't, not too many people commented on this. I could have, it says 17 comments. It says 17 comments, but I don't see the rest of them. Best, let's go to all. I want to see all of them. Damn, I don't see them. Where did they go? I guess there's no more question. No, accidentally hit someone's profile. Bad. Yeah, I don't see any other comments. It says 17. I don't know how Reddit works. I'm not a Redditor. I'm not one of those people. I think I answered this guy's question pretty well without having to go on the post and like call him stupid, because I don't want to do that. I think that he just doesn't understand that DPs would probably ruin 3D fighting games. Like, they just work differently, especially DPs that track. It would absolutely ruin 3D fighting games. That sounds really unhealthy. Like, yeah, if you block it, you get a huge punish, but that means movement on your own offense becomes even more of a risk than it already is, right? Especially in a game like Soulcalibur where movement is inherently unsafe. I can be +4 on block and then go for a side step. I can go be +4 on hit, +6 on hit, and then go for a side step, and I'm no longer plus. You know why? Because step G is -12. So I'm now -6. My opponent just got their turn back because I decided to step on block to see if they were going to do something defensive, and say they just stood there and blocked. It's not my turn anymore. My turn's over. I lost my turn. That's 6 frame to react, which isn't very much. So it's essentially back to neutral, but it's not my turn. I'm no longer plus, right? I don't think that you should match on hit a lot. I think that the what 604 guy kind of has a point. The game is built around people not being able to match on hit, but it's also built in a way where Reverse Ledge and Soulcalibur, Reverse Ledge and GI were meant to be powerful in this Soulcalibur. They were meant to be extremely powerful. So the frames aren't actually that powerful. They're a little forgiving, right? You can mash on, there's a lot of situations where you're going to be able to mash 2Ks on hit, 8As on hit. You're going to be able to mash like a 2B to get out of something with like a tech crouch mid. You're going to be able to do stuff like, right? Because there's so many, when you get to the higher levels of play, when you get to the Yomi of Soulcalibur, you have to worry about those things. You have to worry about your opponent mashing a defensive option. You have to worry about delaying your timing to stop them from just doing an immediate like step crouch duck. You know, you have to be ready for those things. Like, because if you go for a high and they do a step crouch duck, boom, they just ducked into your high. You know, you did an I-16 high, even though you were +8. I-16 high, boop, nope, step crouch duck, easy, right? You do a vertical, they just step in and launch you, right? Step launch is one of the most classic defensive options in Soulcalibur history. You try to do like a force block situation kind of thing on someone's wake up, and they just wake up G, step G. They just do that, and then they made your vertical whiff that you were trying to, you know, force block them with, and then they just kill you with a CE or they launch you. It happens a lot. So there's playing with intentionality when it comes to like mashing on defense and getting out of options, but you have to kind of understand the options first. This post probably is from someone who doesn't understand enough about Soulcalibur to understand that there's ways out of pressure that do not require an invincible reversal. There's tons of ways out of pressure that aren't just immediately swinging for the fences. Sometimes you can swing for the fences once you get a read on your opponent and make it so that they have to respect your defensive option. Anyways,